Okay, thank you very much, Shelley. Welcome. Wonderful to be with you all this morning. I hope you have a bagel, maybe some coffee. I have mine. My name is Eugene Shirley. I'm the president of Pando, and this is the Pando Days 21 finale. We're here to celebrate with 10 colleges and universities from across the Southland who have participated in the 2020-2021 Pando Days season and created 11 projects aimed at implementing the Los Angeles County Sustainability Plan. We pause for a moment to remember that here in LA County, we reside on homeland originally populated, worked, and loved by the Tongva people or Kizh, the Serrano, the Tatavian. We acknowledge them with gratitude of the kind due to ancestors, as they are to us all by way of their indigenous connection to this land. And we honor the people, animals, plants, landscapes, water, and air that make up this place we call home. We acknowledge too that we're in the midst of a holiday weekend in memory of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We see ourselves as standing under that moral arc of the universe that he so memorably described as bending in the direction of justice for the earth and its people. If you're here this morning, chances are you know all about Pando Days and how it focuses the intellectual and creative resources of Southern California higher education on meeting our sustainability challenges. The colleges and universities involved have devoted entire courses, studios, or labs during the fall term to accomplishing their Pando Days work. We're celebrating the projects they have produced today. Over the course of the hour, we'll be hearing from our partners who represent public agencies and civil society about their assessment of the work the school teams have done. And we'll hear from our panel of judges about the projects to which they would like to give special recognition. We created Pando Days as a vehicle of hope. It's easy to be dispirited these days, but for me, a lot of what I can identify as hope springs from a place of action. And action comes from turning big ideas into practical steps in collaboration with community organizations, schools, neighborhoods here in the Los Angeles basin and beyond. The Pando Days work we do enlists some of the greatest intellectual and creative talent in the region, drawing from its higher educational institutions to focus their efforts on the common good and create bold solutions to the biggest problems Angelenos, indeed humanity itself, has faced. To make this happen requires us to bring together public agencies, non-governmental organizations, community stakeholders, sustainability professionals, donors, students, instructors, and everyone who cares to create the right environment where Pando Days can flourish. It's an environment of hope, sparked by innovative solutions and practical plans, fanning the flame of the idea that a different world is possible than the one we now inhabit. To start us off, I would like to introduce Gary Giroud. He's, of course, the Chief Sustainability Officer of Los Angeles County, founding CSO. And in that position, he is the one most responsible for the county having a sustainability plan and then implementing it. Pando Days exists for the purpose of helping to implement the vision of his office. Gary, thank you so much for being with us today. Gary.
Great. Well, thank you, Eugene. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate both the acknowledgement of the native lands on which we're living and breathing today. I come to you from unceded Tongva territory here in Santa Monica, and also appreciate the acknowledgement of Martin Luther King Jr. and his legacy. You know, this is really inspiring for somebody like me. You know, in government, you don't often see the work that you do really start to embed itself in the communities, and seeing how people like these universities and these students and these professors have taken up our sustainability plan and really dedicated time and resources and energy to it is just awesome in the perhaps original sense of that word. this kind of civic engagement is just really critical if we're going to achieve any of the goals of the sustainability plan. We certainly can't do it ourselves in the County of Los Angeles. We need as many and all the partners as we can get. And so bringing together all of these universities, really involving diverse communities, really thinking through what it takes to take a plan, which, of course, is a document on paper ultimately, and make it a reality is critical. So I really want to just thank and acknowledge all of the work that's been done, and express my deep gratitude and appreciation. And of course, I want to congratulate all of you, all of the schools that are here today. Simply having gone through this process and made it to this step, this final step, and I know there's been a lot of hard sweat, probably blood and tears along the way to get here. But you all are really inspiring, and you should feel a real sense of accomplishment. And I congratulate you. These are not easy times. We're all going to recognize these are not easy times. The pandemic has been hard on all of us, mentally, physically, and we've lost so many thousands and hundreds of thousands of lives across the country. And of course, we're dealing still with the fallout from ongoing legacy racism in our communities, and even in our institutions, and government is no different. We have to recognize that we continue to engage in racist practices like putting freeways or in displacing people in communities of color. But for all of that, I think it's these kinds of initiatives, the Pando Days and the work that all of you have done together, that still provides kind of a ray of hope and an inspiration to all of us, and really it makes me think that we can, in fact, have a much better Los Angeles by working all together. So thank you all so much for being here, for all your work. Thank you, Eugene, and all the folks from Pando Populous. We really, really do appreciate your support, and good luck today to all of the winners.
Thank you so much, Gary. Wonderful to have you here, and I join you in your enthusiasm for what we're about to see. In the spring of last year, Pando Days 21 solicited involvement from a diverse range of some 50 Southland colleges and universities. 10 of those schools responded with strong proposals for a total of 11 projects in all. The projects focused on any one of 4 categories derived from the county's sustainability plan: transportation, shelter, community, and then an open call category, open to any goal the plan addresses. Each of the 4 categories has a sponsoring partner chosen from among public agencies and nonprofits. Category partners help craft challenge statements for their categories, offered advice and guidance to participating teams during project development, and then are here with us today. And we'll hear from the category partners right now. First up is the shelter category. It's a topic that's on the front burner for Angelenos. Here, our category partner is the Mayor's Office of City Homelessness Initiatives for the City of Los Angeles. The challenge: create and design a model to address any of the myriad of needs for people experiencing homelessness, including solutions for housing, hydration, hygiene, and summer cooling. The focus is goal number 2 of the county's plan: buildings and infrastructure that support human health and resilience. Our location is Skid Row, which has been home to an unhoused population for nearly 100 years, and is the largest concentration of people experiencing homelessness in the country. It's a climate desert, sometimes 15 degrees hotter or more on a summer day than comparable areas in LA that have trees. And every day people arrive in search of vital services. The hope is for holistic, integrated, and community-driven solutions. These are the schools that are taking up this challenge: SciArc, Southern California Institute of Architecture with its project, Mega Micros, small housing on a large urban scale for an underserved population. USC, University of Southern California, urban cooling, bringing climate justice to Skid Row. And Woodbury University, mobile cooling rooms of Los Angeles, mobile cooling walls that employ an ancient technology in a modern application. I'm delighted to say that Deputy Mayor Jose Ramirez is with us today, who heads up the mayor's homelessness initiatives. He and his staff helped us craft the challenge and then advise the teams. Deputy Mayor, great to have you here. You have some amazing projects in your category. I'd love to know your thoughts about them and hear if you think there are next steps that can be taken. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Eugene. Hey, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Happy Sunday. And yeah, it's been exciting to be a part of this process and conversation and work, and excited for to have the opportunity to really share and a lot of the thought process and ideas and bridge building through this process. So definitely some exciting, innovative ideas that have come to the forefront as it relates to shelter and housing, cooling stations, how we think about our space and activating that in ways that can be impactful for our unhoused community. This crisis is decades in the making. We've been able to do a lot over the last year and a half, even through the course of this pandemic. Definitely what a difference an administration makes, what a difference federal and state resources make. I think the bar has been set where we need to go with that to continue to make the investments to really move the needle on our homelessness crisis throughout the city, throughout the county, and throughout this country. So I really welcome all the ideas and what the proposals and what's been crafted over the course of this past year. Such critical work, especially in this time. And I think, when I think of innovation, I think of a couple of things. I think of new ideas that can really make an impact and move the needle, something maybe we haven't entertained before, which are examples of what we've seen from the schools that have presented. In addition to that, also innovation is also taking what works and scaling that in a way that can really multiply an impact. And also innovation to me is bridge building, because it's about bringing folks together to really build some synergy with ideas and opportunities and infrastructure that we can create to really make an impact on our homelessness crisis. And so I really welcome the opportunity to continue the conversation with all the participants and all the schools. I'll make sure I'll put my contact information in the chat. Please feel free to reach out to me. I think this is a good opportunity to continue to build some bridges with our academic institutions as we move forward in this work. It truly is an all hands on deck moment. There's a lot of opportunity now that we haven't seen before, whether it's resources. This is also a highly political year where we'll have new leadership coming in. I think a good opportunity to introduce new ways to do things, as well as how to scale models that work. And so thank you, Eugene, for having me and allowing me to be a part of this work with you all through the course of this competition. And I welcome also, all the insight and support from our county colleagues. Obviously, this is a heavy lift all around. There are 88 cities in the county. The city of LA is one of many to do this work. And I think this is an opportunity also to connect the dots and bridge build with our academic institutions throughout the county. And one thing I've experienced through the course of my role here with the mayor's office is that usually all eyes are on LA. Across the country in terms of what we're doing, what we're building. So truly a great moment to do that and to continue to build on the work that's been presented. So thank you, Eugene.
Thank you so much. I think I heard you say in there that you're willing to sit down with the schools and talk about next steps and all. And I think that's really, really wonderful. And that's a great opportunity for the schools. They have some terrific projects, and being able to sit down with you and your staff provides some real next step opportunities. So thank you so much. We go now from shelter to community as our next category. Here, our partner is the Pico Union Housing Corporation in the Pico Union District of Los Angeles. The challenge: to develop more urban green space in overlooked areas and meet multiple sustainability needs. Here, the partner wanted to define the challenge even further, specifically to develop a pocket park and model that could be replicated in locations throughout the city. The challenge relates to two of the county's sustainability goals. Number 3, equitable and sustainable land use and development without displacement. And number 6, accessible parks and public spaces that create opportunities for respite, recreation, ecological discovery, and cultural activities. Depending on where you live within the county, it's easy to take green space for granted. But many lower income households in Los Angeles do not have immediate access to a park. And there's significant correlation between a lack of green space access to poor health, crime, and even domestic violence. The target location is a 2,500 square foot section of a city street that will be blocked off to traffic and given pocket park designation. But there are a lot of challenges. Right down the middle of this very street is the dividing line between two rival gangs. For some, stepping on one side or the other of that line has been deadly. 3 schools are undaunted. CalArts, California Institute of the Arts, with their project Anchor Island, a mobile performance stage for community engagement. LA Trade Tech, Los Angeles Technical College, from the architecture department, designed by community, a unique toolkit to catalyze community participation in the design of public space. And Otis College of Art and Design, P3, an architectural green print. Representing the category partner is Gloria Ferreres, head of the Pico Union Housing Corporation, and someone who's legendary for the courageous work she does in helping to knit together the fabric of life in disadvantaged communities. Gloria, what an honor to have you with us today. This is your challenge that the teams rose to meet. Please tell us your assessment of the work they've done and let us know if there might be any next steps for the projects. Gloria, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. I am super excited. I want to tell you, Pico Union Housing has been in existence for, last year was our 50th year. We started with affordable housing, and then we ended up with all the challenges of Pico Union because there's not enough services here. So we take a range of things. One of the challenges was economics, and we were they were destroying 2 homes of 9 original facility to a city-owned center. So that is the one where we are creating the pocket park and the alleys. We started a disaster plan when the Rodney King riots, because if you know, our communities didn't have no food, we couldn't have no access to the banks, we couldn't do too much. And that made me start thinking that we had to take care of ourselves. So we decided to get all our managers and all our tenants. We have about 500 units in the Pico Union and about another 500 units in MacArthur's Park, Westlake, Hollywood, and South Central. So we went with the Red Cross, the fire department, and the city, and we created a disaster plan, and the businesses of Pico Union, because they also get, when the rain comes, they get flooded. And based upon that disaster plan, we created and brought it over to the Puente Center. The Puente Center's Pico Union, we brought the center, the mayor was gracious, $5 million to do the rehab of it. And what we did is we bought apples for oranges. So I'm so happy that you guys have this thought of bringing the universities to the community. And so I brought a couple of universities. Marcella was one, UCLA was another, to give me an apple for an orange. We gave them all the facility, and they brought their services that Pico Union could not afford to pay for all these programs that are there. Is when the alley, we formed block captains, we call them alley captains. It's 2 people that actually live in each alley. And we wanted to do an inventory of how many children, how many youth, how many seniors were in our alleys, because they're all brickers. There's no elevators, there's no place for them to play. They're all one singles with 4 or 5 children in there. Our apartments are 3-4 bedrooms, so we didn't need to take care of the buildings that we have of affordable, and they're Section 8, so they are okay. We decided to go into the breakers and where the people are paying more rent. Marcela started this program with me, and with the pandemic, we did a Zoom meeting with all our captains to start the program because we didn't want to stop it. So Marcela will tell you a little bit about how we went on the internet, and we gave them laptops, and we did the classes once a week, every Friday. Each alley has a theme. One's the sun, one's the wind, one's the humanity, etc. And the park is going to tie everything in there. This park is where Gloria Molina closed the street. It's not open. The street has been closed for more than 20 years because that's where the drug traffic was going through. So she closed a lot of streets. When the drugs stopped, kind of, some of the streets are open and this street remained closed. Next to our Puede Center is the Women Alcohol Center that is right adjacent to the park that's going to be created. So that's a little story of how the park is going to be the icing of the cake. They could bring everybody together. And as you mentioned, Pico Union has 8 gangs in between the freeway, Hoover, and Olympic and Washington. That's the Pico Union original boundaries before the city enlarged a little, but we continue with the Pico Union area. So I am really excited. The community came together. The universities actually came to the community. They had community meetings. They met with our team captains. They met with the youth, and they went to the graph lab because we have a graph lab in our corporate office, which will be converted into a community center. It's in the mayor's office, a little plug in there for a grant for excavation. And that's where we have our local artists that do the mirrors in our Pico Union area. You know, mirrors cost a lot. Pico pays for the painting and they donate the time. And they're going to be involved in creating murals on our alleys, but environmental mirrors and sun, solar, and everything else. We'll talk about that the next time. So I'm really excited that all the teachers were so excited. They fell in love with the community. They fell in love with our children, and the tie and the responsibility that they took for this and their heart in there is just outstanding. I cannot say thank you enough to all of you guys for coming into Pico Union, and I look forward in continuing working with you guys.
Gloria, thank you so much. And one of the most significant things there that you said is your interest in continuing to work with all the schools now going forward. I think that's so exciting and really invigorating to all of the schools to know that you're eager to sit down with them all and see how the work that they've developed in all 3 projects can then push forward. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being a part of this initiative.
Thank you.
Our next category is what we call open call. Our partner for the Open Call Challenge is the CSO, or Chief Sustainability Officer Task Force for LA County itself. Schools that chose this category could focus on any of the goals in the LA County Sustainability Plan. There were 2 universities interested in the challenge. And what happened, in fact, is that both of them decided to focus on goal number 10, creating a sustainable and just food system that enhances access to affordable, local, and healthy food. The 2 participating universities in the open call category were Cal Poly Pomona with their project, Foodways Connection, mapping food resources to build food security in LA, and Cal State Northridge, Open Garden, download app, unlock gardens, reimagine equitable foodscapes in Pomona. Representing the category partner is CSO Task Force member John B. Cobb Jr. John is also founding chair Pando Populus and is a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, the body that you may know includes the country's Nobel Prize winners among its members. John is an absolute pioneer at the intersection of philosophy, ethics, and the environment, beginning with a book he wrote more than 50 years ago, which was titled, Is It Too Late? He's also a former professor of mine, going back now more than 40 years. John, so wonderful to have you here. I'm eager to know what you think about the projects in the open call category and what next steps you might envision for them both, and where you might envision any of those next steps happening. John, over to you.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity. I have been one of those who tried to look at the present in light of what is probably going to be the future. And I'm afraid that as I view our failure thus far to really organize ourselves to prevent the calamities, both from weather, climate change, and other things, that future is not a very promising one. One of the kinds of problems I anticipate is that there will be times when communications and transportation systems and so forth will not work as anything like as well as they work today, and that people who do not have local food production will have great difficulty getting any food at all. I fear that actually around the world, not just millions, but billions of people will be affected. And that's partly because climate change is going to make the production of food much more problematic. If you have no idea whether it's going to be hot or cold, and you probably have some of both, and where the droughts will occur and where the floods will occur, is developing a good food system is a very major chance. So I'm extremely interested in this matter of local food production. I think it's going to be very important to create communities that can sustain themselves in with a great deal of, shall I say, with very little communication and receiving of goods from outside. But the number one issue will be whether they can feed themselves. So I'm just saying the topic seems to me to be of immense importance already in the present. Right now, it can improve matters greatly. But in the future, it's going to be a matter of life or death. So the two projects that have actually been undertaken both have to do with what shall I say, figuring out what the best way of proceeding will be, finding the locales, for example, in Pomona that can best be used for the purposes of producing food, and also looking at the whole county in that way. These are extremely important foundational steps. I have myself been focusing much more on those groups that are actually producing the food and what they can do in the future. I personally believe that greenhouses are going to become extremely important, and I'm very glad that methods have been invented which can keep greenhouses from absorbing too much sunlight and therefore becoming killers in the summertime in climates like ours. So there is much more to be done, but the city of Pomona has already made use of one of these studies in actually identifying properties. It is not a matter just of what will be done with that study in the future. It's what's already being done. And I'm delighted that City Council is interested in this and that it has already helped to determine the research that was done, is profiting from it. So I hope that this kind of practical relationship between the university's research and the actual working toward local self-sufficiency in food production will continue. And I'm so pleased that one of the universities involved, although it did not take Pomona as its particular target, is in Pomona, and I'm hoping we can work much more together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. The doors you're opening could be enormously helpful to the teams, I think, in terms of next steps. I also think it's wonderful how, I mean, of course, all the work you've done throughout your life has been applicable globally, but that you've taken just such a strong interest in Pomona and seeing how those big ideas can come down to earth and have effect right there in your neighborhood next door. So anyway, thank you so much for that and for helping us think about next step opportunities there. Our final Pando Days category is transportation. The category partner is the Internal Services Department of the County of Los Angeles itself, working in collaboration with the Southeast Los Angeles Collaborative, SELA, and the city of Cudahy. The challenge: how might we engage more effectively with grassroots communities on matters related to EV transportation? In the LA County Sustainability Plan, the challenge relates to 3 goals, 7, 8, and 11, which aim for zero emissions, affordable transportation, and the participation of disempowered communities. The partners chose to locate the challenge in Cudahy, a municipality in Southeast LA County with a high pollution burden and a low median income. The hope is that new community engagement strategies prototyped here could help the county with planning and implementation of EV charging, micro mobility like bikes, ride share and car share programs, and syncing clean tech programs in Cudahy and beyond. The schools that took up the Pando Days 21 Transportation Challenge include California State University Long Beach, its project Systems Approach, a solution for local transportation with global impact. Mount St. Mary's University, Mapping Cudahy's Air, empowering the community with portable air sensors to map hyperlocal patterns of particulate pollution. And Otis College of Art and Design, EV Test Case, Marketing EV in Cudahy. We're now going to hear directly from the category partner represented by Wilma Franco of SELA, who has been working with us, with the county's team and the school teams throughout the season. Wilma, it's been great to have you involved in Pando Days. Tell us your assessment of the projects and how you think you might be able to help use these projects in moving the needle here in LA County on matters of transportation. Wilma, over to you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Eugene, for the context and the introduction. It's been a joy working on these several projects, right? I think it's been wonderful to see just the innovation, the ideas of the students and the professors of how to really look at this piece, right? I think one of the things when we began talking about this project was really as an organization, right, that represents, 12 other organizations in the Southeast. It was very important for us, the community engagement aspect of that. Oftentimes the criticism has been community engagement in low-income disadvantaged communities is just a checkbox, right? It's just, were we present? But we really don't necessarily engage community. And then so this for us was just critical as we think about the sustainability plan and how this will be implemented across the county, right? Thinking about how do these communities that are often left out and oftentimes ignored can be included, right? So we truly appreciated the innovation, the thought partnership with the county, with Jennifer. And I think for us is how do we continue to work with the universities, continue to work with these projects, right? Especially given just the times that we're facing and the multiple projects that we know are coming into the region, and ensuring that the voice of the community is really driving what's best for the communities that are going to be impacted. So I think for us is, just looking forward to meeting with everyone and really beginning to understand how can we continue to support in implementing some of this work in the region across, and working with our partners as well, which is going to be critical, as I think Chair Ramirez mentioned, right? Like, it's that collaboration and that building bridge that's going to really help us, achieve some of these goals that we've set out. So thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much, Wilma. I'm excited, and I hope you all are too, with what you've heard from the category partners, not only about the importance of these projects and where they fit within the work that the category partners are doing, but also the way that next step opportunities can be taken with meetings held, everyone rolling up their sleeves to see how these projects can begin to be implemented on a real world basis. I'm also excited about the promise of collaboration across teams. As I've listened this morning, I've imagined collaborations of all kinds that could be interesting, both within categories and outside of them. To all of the category partners, please accept our deepest thanks for your involvement. Soon we'll be hearing from the judges, but first I've invited Hydran Mumper-Drum to comment on what she's been thinking as she's been listening to everything so far this morning. Hydran is the chair of LA's CSO, or Chief Sustainability Officer Task Force, and is herself CSO of Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. Hydran, what's been going through your mind as you've listened to the responses from category partners and about next steps? Does this give you hope?
Absolutely. Actually, it gives me more than hope. I immediately think of action, right? Hope leading to acting. So thanks for asking me to speak to the role of the CSO task force and the value of the Pando days. And I'd like to summarize my reaction into kind of 3 points. I'd like you to know 3 things. First, the CSO task force is a network of sustainability professionals, advocates, and educators. But more importantly, we aspire to be a cooperative network. That is, to form strategic relationships to advance and propel sustainability. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that the task force was inspired by the LA County Sustainability Plan, developed and continues to be led by Giroud, whom you heard from. This plan became a call to action, or a mission, for the CSO task force. And in an effort to make it real, to act on the plan, we envisioned a project-based approach. What if we could create projects to implement the sustainability plan goals? And that leads me to the third thing I'd like you to know, is that Pando Days became one of those projects, a mega project to be sure. It is much more ambitious and expansive as we even thought it would be. The CSO network, with Pando's support, created an opportunity for educators and students to work with community partners to conceptualize projects that address select goals established by the county sustainability plan. So I hope that kind of shows you the scaffolding that the CSO task force created to enable these prototypes and projects. This is only our second Pando Days, and CSO task force members and I are here to celebrate the meta potential of these creative collaborations. By making it real, these concepts allow us to anticipate sustainability. They are prototypes. Their value is as a model of how LA County goals might be understood, acted on, and met. So that is my, everything that our community partners have spoken to thus far solidifies that thinking for me and the role of the CSO task force, the purpose of implementing the goals, and how we creatively go about it. And there's a fourth thing that just occurred to me that I want to throw in. If your work, those of you in the room, if your work is in the community and if you focus on sustainability, if it's in regulation or assessment or communication, if you help a company or an organization implement sustainability practices, if you teach, or if you are a student preparing to work to further sustainability, we invite you to be part of the task force. Or tell us about a project in need of partners. I'm going to add my email to the chat. Betsy, I'd love you to add yours as well. Reach out to us. We're here to cooperate, co-create, co-influence, co-lead, co-act to further the LA County sustainability goals. Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you so much, Hydrin. Thank you so much for your task force leadership. Now it's time to hear from our judges and learn the choices they have made. Judges were asked to review the recorded premier presentations that all the schools made in early December, to review their supporting materials, and to make their top 3 selections. Judges have not consulted with the category partners on their decisions, as theirs is an independent assessment. The purpose of the judging is to determine how we should allocate an aggregate total of $5,000 in cash prizes that we're rewarding as our own kind of stimulus check to help push projects forward. As such, judges' selections represent their judgment as to which initiatives are best positioned at this point to take next steps forward. They have assessed a team's ability for taking these steps according to these criteria: how well a project will help communities meet LA County sustainability goals, how responsive the project is to stakeholder needs, how innovative and creative it is, and how viable in terms of implementation. It probably goes without saying that there was extraordinary diversity in the judges' picks. We will make the judges' cards public, by the way, on our website next week for those who wish to read them. At the end of the day, we literally had to call in a statistician to help tally the votes because of complex assessments and the spread. And as our category partners have just demonstrated, all projects are already winners in being selected to pursue next step discussions and opportunities with the category partners. The 3 judges for Pando Days 21 are all members of LA's CSO task force and include Mike Wallace, Catherine Miller, and Chris Reed. Mike Wallace has long been at the table globally on sustainability matters, advising clients. He is currently Senior Vice President with Persephone. And while he's been off in Oregon for a few years, I hear rumors he may be returning before long to help us out down here in the Southland. So Mike, take a brief minute or so to let us know your reflections, and then please announce the 3rd place winner.
Sure thing. Eugene, can you hear me okay?
You're coming through well.
So Mike Wallace, like Eugene mentioned, full transparency, I'm up in Portland, Oregon for the last few years, but we'll be moving back to Los Angeles later this summer. So looking forward to being back for my 3rd time in the South Pasadena area, and looking forward to working with you more one-on-one as we come out of COVID and we can be back together again. You know, the power of networks is incredibly represented here by this group, 48 participants on this call. But that network, I want to give a shout out to Mark Spears, an old friend in the field I've known for probably 15 years. Over the course of my time there in South Pasadena, he and I would meet regularly for breakfasts, and he introduced me to John Underdook, who then introduced me to Eugene. And I remember 5 years ago, specifically sitting in Russell's, having coffee and breakfast with these gentlemen and learning about Pandopolis and this whole project. It was an honor to be invited to be part of the task force, and over the years work with people like Gary. And even when I wasn't there in LA, I was very proud to be able to talk about the impact that Los Angeles County and 88 cities can have. And when you talk about scalability, to be able to get something to replicate across LA County is incredibly impactful. I want to give a special shout out to Shelley and Judith for all of their help, as well as Eugene for packaging things up the way they did. I've been in touch with Eugene over the years, but never had I seen the whole portfolio come together like it did. And that was such an inspirational couple of days over a weekend where I got to see those videos and those presentations all put together like they were. And every one of them are, truly inspirational. I could see opportunities for all of them. And I've mentioned to Eugene, I'd be happy to help with any future efforts with any of those projects. It was a tough call, but for third place, the third place award goes to the Otis College of Art and Design for the transportation category and their project in Cudahy. That was project title EV Test Case and Marketing EV in Cudahy. I think it's a really interesting project because of what I saw that was presented there. I do believe, that there is tremendous opportunity to educate. We're a great network here, but 90% of the population doesn't necessarily care about these things. How do we wake them up to the needs and make it personal for them? And I really felt like that project did it. So Gina Vallona was the lead on this project. I'd like Gina to come off of mute and be able to ask her a couple of questions. Gina, are you out there? I don't see you on my video, but I'll flip around here.
Hi, I'm here. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that great effort. I'd like to know a little bit more, if you could, about the team and how you had the inspiration to bring the team together and why you chose this particular project.
So we started in spring working with the city of Cudahy, and I worked really closely with the internal services department, specifically Jennifer Carson-Sale, and she communicated that they really wanted to focus on EV because there were other partners in the county and in the city that were focusing on the micromobility aspects. So we really decided to take the direction that she wanted us to go with and focus on this EV infrastructure and what that looked like in the future of Los Angeles. So I've partnered, I have a collaborator, she's here today, by the name of Julie Schultz. And we really kind of looked at what the needs were. And then both Julie and I worked with the students to kind of, blue sky, kind of figure out where they were. We met with Wilma and some of the SELA team and really tried to figure out what the needs of the communities were there, looked at the city of Cudahy, the infrastructure, and then really realized that the need was communication. Like, how are we going to activate the plan if people don't even really know about the plan? They're not educated on EV. There's a lot of fear and mistrust that was especially communicated to us by the SELA partners. How can we trust government when they've been so untrustworthy in the past? How do we build that bridge, which has been mentioned earlier today? So that was kind of the core impetus of how we looked at the project. And then we really, and Julie's really expert at this, we really looked at the different constituents within the SELA community. Who were those constituents? And because it's diverse within that population anyways, how could we meet them where they were? So we identified three main categories, which were the long distance, the short distance, and the multi-generational family kind of constituents within that. And then we kind of just went to work we brainstormed, we went through the whole human-centered design process, and we coupled that with branding and marketing strategies. And then we really let the students kind of blue sky, wild ideas. And then as a cohort, as a team, we really looked and asked what might work best, And we just continued to refine those ideas throughout the semester, and then came to the final, presentation and kind of campaign idea to reach those different demographics within the SELA community.
Great, thanks for that, Gina. You know, and you've met tons of people through this effort, made a lot of friends out there, I'm sure, all sorts of new ideas. And, you know, the world has really woken up to these issues finally. I've been at this for a long time, but it feels like the last 3 years, it's just exploding on the scene. How do you plan to push all this forward? What's your wish, and what is your hope for us, and how can we help you?
I think when I think in terms of next steps, I really would love to get in the room with SELA Internal Services and figure out like what aspect of the proposal we can use to move forward first. And I think I'm always about how can we make rapid progress, even if it's a small step, because sometimes large steps, they're too big and they never get done. So, it's like, how can we launch, I just read an article. One of our proposals was to engage social media influencers. And I just read an article a couple of weeks ago, I think it was CNN or the New York Times, that China has now hired social media influencers to promote EV. And I was like, wow, this is wild. Yeah. And I think that that's something that's very financially feasible. It wouldn't require a huge budget. The timing is perfect, both in terms of technology, where we're at with social media, and where we're at with EV, kind of the EV market. So that might be something that could kind of be implemented fairly quickly as a test case and see how that is. And then I think some of the other ideas might look at more long-term strategies and really coming up with a strategic plan on how we might implement these ideas within phases.
That's great, Gina. And again, thank you so much for the effort you put into this, and you and the team, and congratulations to you all for taking the third place in this competition.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Eugene, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. And Gina, once again, congratulations. By the way, that comes with a $1,000 check. Next, we want to hear from Judge Catherine Miller. Catherine is former Chief Sustainability Officer and Head of Campus for the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation. If you've seen the Hilton's extraordinary LEED Platinum building in Agora Hills, you've seen a crown jewel, and one of the things she accomplished as campus head during the decade that she was there. Catherine, please let us hear briefly your reflections and announce the second place winner.
Great. Thank you, Eugene. And thank you to all who were instrumental in ensuring the successful delivery of this program. And I'm really honored to be able to participate as a judge for Pando Days 2021. It was a tough choice. Yes. And I want to say that I'm incredibly impressed by the work that each of the colleges accomplished. The focus and dedication, the collaboration and passion was highly evident in the work that was outlined and presented by students and their professors. Mostly, I'm struck by the sensitivity and creativity and the connection to the communities in which these projects took shape, and how they have potential to impact our citizens of LA County now and into the future. Again, I want to thank all of the colleges who participated. Our communities within LA County will continue to receive the benefit of this work, and the lasting legacy is exciting to imagine what that will be. You have truly been planting seeds, so thank you. As I'm sure other judges found, this was really difficult to narrow down to a top three. It was no easy task. Great thought and analysis went into it. A lot of time. Just really going through and reviewing the presentations, as well as the intense documentation that was presented as well. And it really was truly professional efforts. But as such, I'm really pleased to announce the second place winner of the Pando Days 2021, and that will be going to California Institute of the Arts with lead professor Shannon Scrifano. So I want to shout out to you guys. You did a great job, really great job. This also comes with a check of $1,500 to help move the projects to the next steps. Congratulations, Shannon and students. So Shannon, let me get you on my screen so I can see you. There you are. I just had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask you. And one of them was, how did your team come up with this unconventional approach to the park? And how did you feel about taking on a project that had a dividing line of two gangs right down the center of it? Really curious about that.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine, and everyone on CSO Task Force, and everyone, just everyone. It's such an honor to be a part of Pando Days. And I have my two future friends, future Earth savers with me. So I think, sorry, Hugo, can I have just a minute? So we were really excited to participate. I mean, the work across the category and with LA Trade Tech and Marcella and Gina and Otis, it was just such an honor to be in dialogue. And the work Gloria has sort of foundationally laid with PUHC is like deeply inspiring, imaginative, profound, just like an incredible opportunity to be in dialogue with all of these individuals. And I think we only know sort of at CalArts how to come up with the more unconventional ideas. I think the obvious evades us, but I think what we were interested in part was like a notion of in some ways a proto park or it's so difficult to actually implement things and sort of like get full funding, full approval, and how can we sort of do preliminary activation right now and reclaim spaces, whether they're spaces that are contested in certain ways or spaces that are underloved or underimagined. How can we own those right now for the neighborhoods and start to talk about what's possible and to talk from groundswell level about what's possible with the individuals in the neighborhood, and to do that through creative action, through some level of delight, through levels of engagement by people making things together, gathering, asking questions together, learning skills together. I think that's what we were really most excited about. And I think what we observe, a lot of my students do come from music, from producing, scenic design, graphic design, that the gathering we have seen in the last couple of years is something that we just need as humans, to make decisions, physically gathering to make decisions, to celebrate talent, to celebrate possibility. And so I think the notion of something that we can do right now that's a little bit more proto-park, that's performance oriented and neighborhood activated was really inspiring to us. And I think there is a history of creative activity really being able to bring together folks who are in extreme conflict with each other, because the rules are not the same, the ruts of behavior are not necessarily the same. And obviously countrywide, we've rarely, in my lifetime, we haven't experienced a more decisive moment. So I think that I was really proud of my students for wanting to step up and say, what is being in division and what is being in togetherness, without being naive about it, but to bring some hopefulness to that equation.
Right, it inspires hope, and I feel that definitely. One last question that I had was, I wondered what will you do to push this project forward?
Well, definitely take advantage of continuing to work with Marcella and Gina and Gloria on what's possible more immediately. We're starting to go after some grants in some different spaces. I've had some conversations with some folks in that, and also open if anyone has ideas for us. We're already growing mushroom drums, mycelial drums. So, and we hope to be able to do some workshops down at Pico Union, maybe when Omicron settles down. The students developed a whole series of workshop possibilities, everything from field recordings to the making of playable furniture to growing our own drums. So hopefully we'll be able to start that stuff more immediately. Also, I got a jackhammer for Christmas, so I'm ready, Gloria. When you want to depave, it's my spirit animal. I'm there.
That's great. I'm really excited to see, what's going to take shape over time. And again, I just want to say congratulations to you and the students. And again, really excited to see where this will go. So Eugene, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Congratulations, Shannon. Glad to know I have a good friend who has a jackhammer, that kind of spirit animal. That's good to
just call me, anybody. Call me.
Okay. Now let's hear from Chris Reed, the third member of our Pando Days 21 judges panel. Chris is associate principal with the engineering firm of Burl Happold, with a specialty in urban planning and sustainability. Chris has a special connection to the LA County Sustainability Plan as the person most responsible for having actually done the lion's share of the drafting itself. Chris, thank you for that. And thank you for being with us today. You obviously know the plan inside out. Give us your reflections on the projects and please announce the first place prize.
All right. Thank you, Eugene. I have to say that our county was definitely a collective and collaborative effort with a tremendous team. It definitely wasn't me alone, but it was one of my favorite projects I've ever had the opportunity of working on. And when pulling it together in 2017 and 2018, we sought to outline what stakeholders across the public, private, and nonprofit sectors could do to enhance the well-being of every community in the county while reducing damage to the natural environment and adapting to climate change. And in reviewing these proposals, I was so impressed and inspired to see how these teams took on this call to action, starting with the universal goals of the plan and developing targeted, thoughtful, and impassioned solutions that bring us closer to achieving our shared vision of a sustainable and equitable LA County. There was one proposal, however, which stood out above the rest. Incredibly well researched and presented, the first place proposal provides an implementable solution that creatively addresses an urgent problem in our region. It stands out for its deep understanding of the interconnected issues and challenges facing the Skid Row community. I'm so pleased to award the Pando Days first place prize to USC with team leads Allison Hirsch and Jared McKnight. This comes with a check for $2,500 to help move next steps forward. Congratulations, USC. I'll ask Allison and Jared if they can unmute for a little bit. And I want to start with a question, which was one thing that stood out was just the amount of research that went into this project. And so I want to hear from you. What did you learn that was most unexpected? What was the biggest surprise? And how did that inform the rest of the project?
Wow. Allison, do you want to kick off with anything?
Sure. First of all, thank you. This is great news. We're very pleased, and I am a very sort of minor component to this team. This is, I played a supportive role, and Jared is the sort of primary research lead. But I think, what I do want to highlight in terms of maybe not surprises, but just appreciation and awe is the amazing amount that we learned from and with the partners that we developed as a result of the prompt of Pando. I mean, I really appreciate all the support, but this actually led to not only us partnering with the Office of the City Homelessness Initiatives and Tyrone, Megan, Kirkpatrick, who moved on, and Che, and we got some time with you, but also it gave us a chance to really partner in a lot of ways that we call them advisors, but really partner with homeless healthcare and their Refresh Spot and their Center for Harm Reduction, the Downtown Women's Center, LA CAN, the LA Poverty Department. So just understanding how much people are and how diverse the efforts are, where people are really working tirelessly on the ground in Skid Row, and how they really helped us understand the specificities of both the assets and the needs of the particularities of the Skid Row community.
Yeah, and I would just add, thank you, Chris, for your kind words, and to the entire Pando team and the judges and everyone that's really given themselves and their time to kind of meaningfully engage in these topics. I think for us, we've just been so amazed by seeing all of the work across all the categories, and we feel in such great company here at Pando Days. And I think the category of shelter for us that kind of Pando enlisted us to participate in was not so much about thinking about kind of a speculative condition 5, 10, 20, or even 50 years in the future. It was really about looking at the experience of inequity that's part of the unhoused community's everyday life right now, today in Los Angeles. And I think what surprised me the most in developing kind of the initial research prompt was really this idea that as designers, we often look at zoning codes, we look at building codes, but we don't always look at municipal codes. And municipal codes are the codes in our cities that actually criminalize individuals for certain actions. So for us, it was really about taking that voice and sort of the expertise of the landscape architect and bringing that to a topic of homelessness. So the work, it doesn't seek to solve homelessness. The solution is not a design landscape. We're bringing sort of the voice of the landscape architect to an understanding that kind of the solution to homelessness is an institutionalization of more concrete programs that reduce or prevent the likelihood of homelessness paired with these permanent supportive housing strategies. So while the solution to homelessness is housing, for as long as that solution will take, unhoused communities are still continuing to suffer at the hands of our designed civic and open spaces, our streetscapes, and at the hands of those codified systems of regulation that really restrict their abilities to have a dignified existence in their everyday lives right now. So the work is really looking to explore impactful interim improvements to those current daily in the moment and traumatic conditions that unhoused communities are facing in Los Angeles, and really bringing a different perspective to how we think about the design of our open spaces.
Can I also just shout out to our team, our primary team? I mean, it really was a team effort. And I want to make sure not all of us will get to talk, but, you know, Laura Labico, Andrea Benz, Zeta, Vani, and Respite, and Eva Melis, who isn't able to be here with us, but we worked together really well, and they were really, I learned so much from them. So just wanted to put that out there.
Terrific. All right. So tell me what comes next.
Wow, so much. This is one kind of very small spoke of a larger sort of effort that our sort of department and within USC's landscape architecture department, we also have a program called the Landscape Justice Initiative, which is founded by my colleague and good friend Allison here. And it really looks at sort of how we can more actively engage on the ground in communities. So for us, it's really about continuing to build these partnerships with so many of the community organizations and the Mayor's Office of City Homeless Initiatives that we've started. I think we were so impacted by the existing efforts of the city to sort of really install cooling stations in Skid Row, and really thinking about how we can install more permanent strategies. So for those that haven't had the opportunity to see any of the kind of report or presentation we pulled together, we essentially were working on the design of a decision-making toolkit for the city and these local community organizations to be on the ground, actively engage, and do meaningful sort of participatory design processes with the unhoused community in Skid Row to really design strategies to bring more sort of resiliency and sustainability in terms of cooling strategies to that community. So our kind of long-term goal is to really implement sort of year-round cooling stations in the Skid Row community that don't just focus on urban cooling, but also focus on warmth. Sort of there's equally as many sort of issues in the winter months here in Los Angeles amongst the unhoused community as there are in the hottest summer months. So it's really about sort of finding partners to really think about how we can sort of roll this out in very quick, immediate timeframes, but also sort of with that future goal in mind. So for us, the next step is just continuing these partnerships with these community organizations. They've introduced us to so many individuals on the ground in Skid Row, and it's just sort of an amazing part of our process that we're really looking forward to continuing.
All right, terrific. Thank you, and congratulations, Jared, Allison, and the USC team. I just want to say one quick thank you to the CSO Task Force and Pando Populous for bringing us together in our shared interest in regional sustainability, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Back to you, Eugene.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations to Allison and Jared and the USC team. It's a fabulous project. And again, congratulations to all the Pando Days 21 participants. Thank you for an extraordinary season of courageous projects all. directed to creating a brighter and better future for the region we love. I don't know about you, but I'm more hopeful than I was just an hour ago, and I hope you are too. And now it's time for us all to get on with the rest of our day and enjoy a Southern California Sunday afternoon. To read more about the Pando Days 21 projects, please go to the Pando Populous website. You'll see a link to the projects page in the chat window down below. Today marks the end of the Pando Days 21 season, which means that after a breather, we'll get to start it up all over again. So watch for Pando Days 22 launching soon. It's going to be a big year with surprises to come, so stay tuned. Special thanks to Gary Giroud, to Hydron Mumper Drum, and LA's CSO Task Force, to our category partners, Pando Days judges, and all the participating schools. Many thanks to the Pando board with John Cobb as its chair, to the Pando team of managers, designers, educators, producers, writers, and brainstormers of every kind. Many thanks to Betsy Hunter, without whom nothing much at Pando happens, and to Shelley Goldstein, who made these programs run so efficiently. And special thanks to Judith Parker, who's advised, coached, prodded, godmothered us all through the Pando Days 21 season every step of the way. Pando Days is made possible with the generous support of the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation and from many of you. Thank you all again, and have a great weekend.